Welcome to Step Up Your Studio, the essential podcast for dance studio owners and teachers who are ready to grow their business, inspire their dancers, and create thriving studios. Join your hosts, Stephen Sirico and Angela Volta Sirico, for actionable insights, step-by-step blueprints, and expert advice designed to help you succeed.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Step Up Your Studio, the podcast that will provide you with a blueprint for your continued success. And today's guest in the hot seat is none other than Dolly Kelepecz. Welcome, Dolly.
Oh, Angela, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I think this is such a fabulous idea to create this community with all the people that you interact with.
Well, that's what we're all about, as you know. But first of all, everybody, I want to let you know a little bit about Dolly because she's had an amazing career. She was a performer for 30 years with numerous ballet companies, and she was also principal artist at the Lido in Las Vegas and did wonderful things with that. And then she created DK Body Balancing Method for Pilates, which has been tremendously successful, has gone all over the world also. And she has studios doing it all over in Japan and Far East, Near East.
All the East.
Yes, exactly. And she's also the author of a number of books that have been published worldwide. She's the director of training programs for Dance Teacher Webb's Dance Teacher University, which we created I think it was 10 years ago. We created together. And she's an amazing ballet teacher, amazing anatomy teacher. She's just amazing. And
wow. I want to meet her. Can I meet her?
She's also a full-time, apart from all this other stuff, she's a full-time professor at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, a professor in the dance department, and she's been there for many years, and she's guided so many students to huge successes, and not just in dance, but in life also. So, we're in an ever-changing world, Dolly. What changes have you noticed that are sort of drastic in the last few years? I know it's kind of a loaded question, but
yeah. And the thing is, I don't want to be a downer either, right? Because the things that have changed, this is most recently what I experienced. I just did a ballet for the first time at the community college. I called it divertissements because I had a lot of different things kind of squished together because there were various kinds of levels of ability. And I got one professional dancer who'd worked all over Europe, who graduated from UNLV, and she's now here in town. And I said, okay, well, what solo do you want to do? And she picked Gamzati because, that one makes you look really fancy and you jump around a lot, right? So I was like, okay, that's great. And it was so good for the CSN kids to see it. And I had such a hard time with these issues. Your hair must be in a bun. You cut bangs 2 weeks ago. The bangs have to be out of your face. You need to get tights your skin color. You have to, and no glasses on stage. Well, I can't see. It's really part of the culture of ballet that, maybe hip hop, you can wear your horn, but you can't do that in ballet. And well, I don't have my contacts. I'm like, yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. And then, okay, the professional girl comes up to me the day of the performance and she says, do I have to take my necklace off?
Oh, no.
I was like, she goes, I could just glue it down. I said, no, you need to take your necklace off. So my point being, I believe that the lackadaisical kind of laid back, do I have to, is kind of seeping into the professional world where people have really been brought up through strict discipline. But now they're like, oh, well, this would be okay, right? And I'm like, no. But some people would say, yeah, sure. And then that changes the culture. It changes the real discipline. I mean, dance, that's one of the most beautiful things that comes out of dance, not just ballet, but dance is discipline. Yeah. And discipline is that's how you're successful in life.
Absolutely. And I think, and it goes right back to dance studios and the way they teach the kids what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And, in our experience dealing with kids in a studio place is kids really, they may not like it, but they they like the fact that you're guiding them in that way. They like the boundaries, they dislike the boundaries, but it's a sort of a war.
The
But
love-hate relationship kind of.
exactly.
Yes.
But I always say to my students, you may hate me now, but you'll love me later.
Yeah. Oh,
And
okay.
and I'm
That's
hoping for those letters like 20 years down the road where they tell
right.
you
Right.
how
Right.
much you meant to them, and
Right.
how
They
well
better not wait 20 years for me because I'd be dead maybe. So hopefully I'll get him in the next couple of years.
maybe 5.
Or maybe 5. Okay. So
But
that's one of the things that I've noticed is that the discipline has slipped a little bit. And there's no blame being put on anyone. I think it's the culture of our world now that it doesn't really matter.
yeah,
And it's a tough hustle for the ballet teachers and for the studio owners. They are the warriors, keeping dance alive. But it starts when
absolutely.
they're little. It doesn't start when they get to college. So there's no blame. It's just a cultural shift.
It is, and I think, somehow as a community, it's important that we all try to hold it together and keep that discipline, because in the long run, it's going to benefit everybody.
Can I
It'll
tell you
bring
something funny? It's funny.
yes.
I thought it was funny. And if you don't think it's funny, then you can kind of edit it out. I don't know. So I was teaching my point class, and there were 4 kids in the point class. One was actually doing black and white swan in Swan Lake. So she's very good. One was from the Disabilities Resource Center, so she had some problems. One hadn't taken ballet in forever, and one was kind of a disgruntled student, UNLV student. So it was this vast array of skill in the room. And I was trying so hard to try and help everybody make something out of it. And finally I stopped and I looked at them and I said, because I was trained by the Ballet Russians. Okay. I looked at them and I said, I now know why my ballet teacher put alcohol in his water bottle and hit us with a stick because you're driving me crazy.
Well, sometimes
Yeah,
you just
their
have to
eyes
say
got really big. Because that was our reality, right?
yes,
Your
yeah,
reality, my
absolutely.
reality, it was mine.
Well, I think nowadays kids, students, I say kids
Yeah.
of varying ages, they are helpless almost, that you have to sort of jolly them along, and I always
That's
find when
very
I'm teaching, I try to put some humor in there, because that seems to at least engage them
yeah.
with enough time,
Me
that
too. I
they'll
do the
they'll
same thing.
actually follow.
Yep. They like it when you're funny. I always say now, if grandma can do this, you can do this. Speaking of
Exactly.
myself. So, and then that makes them kind of giggle and whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that
it's
is
true.
one thing I've seen.
Yes, and another thing, you do wonderful work with your Pilates, and I have to say I've been to Dolly's Pilates. She helped me when I had an injury, and she helps numerous people worldwide. But we notice that there's a lot more soft tissue injuries nowadays. What are you finding?
So I feel like because we have become so obsessed with overstretch, and I'm not saying overstretch is bad. It is anatomically not good for all people because all people aren't meant to be that flexible. So I think that overstretch is creating laxity in the joints, which then the muscles are having to work harder, and then they fail because it's not really the muscle's complete job to hold the joint together. When you create that laxity in the ligament, then you have an unstable joint, whether it's in your back, your shoulder, your hip, your knee, your ankle. Yeah, I mean, think about point work. We used to sit with our feet underneath this because we overstretch our feet, right? Not good, but some people could get away with it and some people couldn't. So
Yes. And I
yeah.
know, nowadays there's like, even when you go to competitions, there's so much emphasis on tricks
Yes.
rather than musicality in many cases. We're getting away from actually dancing to
You
making it
know,
more about acro and all of those things, which, have a great place also. But I think it's becoming very intermingled, everything. And some of these kids are just not physically strong enough or prepared, you know, mentally too, to be able to do these things without injuring themselves.
Well, and that's where I think Pilates comes in because it teaches you healthy articulation of the joints. That is, we do stretch, but it's not an overstretch type of activity. It's more of a healthy lifestyle kind of activity, which that leads me into I'm doing this. I'm the chair of the board on Healthy Performers Southern Nevada, and so I kind of connected up with uh, surgeons. I've got two fake knees and a fake ankle, so I know a lot of surgeons and physical therapists. And so we're doing Pilates, we're doing screenings for point shoes, it's a big community thing, and it's free. It's
That's
just
wonderful.
us trying to bring awareness to being a healthy performer instead of, as you're saying, not paying attention to the small details of movement, just whack and spin and
Yeah.
split. And,
Yes. And, I always feel it's so important to try to make dances that can actually last, that will be able to dance, even if they don't do it professionally, will be able to go and take a class and enjoy it, when they're further on in years, even.
you know
But,
what I, yes. So what I found about Pilates, especially in the university system, is that sometimes they don't get to take ballet every day. They only get it twice a week. But then on those off days, they get Pilates, and it's kind of the same. It's a little bit, it reminds me of like Graham. Like there's this certain things you have to do, and they build strength and alignment and, hold you
absolutely.
togetherness. Yeah. So
Well,
it's been very helpful for the university program.
I'm sure it has, and I mean, that's a wonderful thing you're doing, in Las Vegas. It would be great if you could do it, all over the place because everybody would benefit from the knowledge,
Yeah.
It's having that knowledge.
I'm kind of surprised too that people are a little bit more aware of health, being healthy, not just healthy with what you eat, but healthy in how you move. They're a little more aware of that. I just think Cirque du Soleil and the crazy movements the gross movements, the bigger movements
Right.
they have taken over, which would be the tricks that you're talking about. They've taken over, and we have to remember that we have to keep the inside deep muscles. All of that stabilization stuff is very, very important. So you can do all the crazy stuff.
Absolutely. And, that takes time. Unfortunately, nowadays, everybody wants it 1, 2, 3, and all that developing of that strength does take some years. I know, even with our studio, sometimes parents would come in and they'd say, oh, why isn't Susie doing this? And, we're trying to explain to them that we don't want to injure them. It takes time to develop the strength. And nobody has patience nowadays. So that's a tricky one on both sides. With the students, they see it on TikTok, they see things, and they just want to plunge right into it.
It's instamatic, instant
Yeah.
pleasure, instant influencing, instant, it's just instant. I mean, not to get too far off topic, but YouTube has more followers than regular TV now.
Yeah.
Being an influencer, those people are more famous than television stars now. Yeah.
Well, we started Dance Teach University at our conference some years ago, and you really helped us spearhead it, and have been teaching with it all these years. What do you think is the most valuable thing for teachers, in taking that Dance Teach University?
Well, first of all, kudos to how all of the teacher training ideas came about with Charles Kelly.
Right.
And we all went back. We go back to like
Well,
93 in the beginning of that teacher training kind of thing, and even before then,
yeah.
Uh, so it's not such a new idea. I think the idea that I came up with that was a little different was with these studios that offer so many different types of dance. I mean, even into hula and baton twirling, and there's nothing wrong with that because there's a place for that in Cirque, hula hoops, and there's nothing wrong with any of that. I thought, how do we take the foundation? So I'm going to talk about ballet first. How do we take all the foundational ideas of ballet and really drive those home first and learn exercises that can get us to really comprehend what is that. There's a turnout, then there's a shape of the foot, then like what are those things, what are those basic things that we need to get across. We don't have to do 16 entrechats if that's not what you want your studio to do, but they have to stand in a nice foundational first position, know where the turnout comes from, move slowly, and do those dynamics that build inner strength.
Yeah.
And I also think that, you can speak to the lyrical, and it's not just ballet, jazz, and modern,
No, no.
it's a more comprehensive, there's even early childhood development dance program too, which is the teachers that come love that, because it's something they need, that new fuel. They need fuel.
They do. And we always say if you can get those dancers when they're preschool, a lot of them will stay with you until they graduate, high
And
school.
here's the thing about that. I want to say this because I've always wanted a big platform to be able to speak to parents. And you put your kids in dance when they're little because it's cute and because it's a good discipline for them. And you want to see them do that. And it's good for the kid, but it's also something the parent wants to see happen too.
Yeah.
And then the kid likes it and then keeps doing it through, grade school, and then into, what do you call it? Now they call it middle school. And then they're in high school. They've been doing dance since they were little. That becomes part of their soul now. And when they graduate from high school, parents, you have to now think about when they say, can I get a degree in dance? And it isn't because I work at the university. It really isn't. It's just not fair to take that away from them.
No.
And just go, no, you're going to go to business school and this is what you should do. And this way, you really need to understand that you're tending a garden of a person's soul with dance and music. I'm 70. I don't think I look 70, but I think that that's mostly because my entire life I've been able to be in front of a piano playing music while I'm looking at dancers talking about spinning. And, it is really a very beautiful, special, I think the most precious art form that we have. And if you let your kids do that, you're giving them a big gift, but don't take it away from them.
No. Well, unfortunately, that's what happens so often. We've had kids who've gone through our school, and then graduate and go to college for something totally unrelated. And many times they change their degrees, they change the whole thing because it's not them, they don't identify with it. And I think today, more than ever, kids need music, dance. They need that in their lives because, like you say, it's so good for the soul. And we tend to forget about the soul in today's environment.
You're right. And I want to say this too, that when you go to college, the first 4 years of your college is called an undergraduate degree. It will only prove to someone that is maybe going to hire you that you finished something that you started. It's not so important, that undergrad degree, that, I'm going to get my undergrad in kines and then I'm going to get my master's in kines. And then you don't have kinesiology. So you don't really have to do that. If you want to get your undergrad in dance, get your graduate degree in kinesiology, and then you can decide, use both things to create a life for yourself,
Absolutely.
The undergrad degree is really undergrad's undergrad, not the finish. It's just kind of the beginning.
Yes, so true. And then, no matter where you go, if you go right into dance, some go right into performing, but they're able to do educational degrees and things on the side or later. You're never too old to do those things.
Our program, actually, at UNLV, we also have the Pilates certificate and a Pilates minor. And I can't tell you how many people have graduated from that school, and they're in between their dance jobs, or if they're on a cruise ship, they're augmenting their performance abilities with their Pilates. And and they get to go to internships in Japan because of my studios in Japan and Korea and Mexico.
Right. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Really such a great opportunity, and to be able to do that along with getting a dance degree, it's like a twofer. And we
Yes.
also have a production major in dance. So they could get out with a production degree, a performance degree, and Pilates certificate or a minor. I mean, there's a lot. I'm not trying to like push UNLV, but there's a
No,
lot to gain.
but I know that your program is terrific there. And for anybody that's interested in the arts, it's a wonderful program to, go and attend and get your degrees from. And you have wonderful teachers there as well. You
Mhm.
know, I also think, what do you think about point work? Let's just talk very briefly about point work
Right.
because, I was always trained to make sure that everybody was strong enough to go on point. And it's obviously not just the feet, it's the upper body, it's the whole core, it's the legs, it's the ankles, it's up here too. And so often people are pushing kids to go on point early when they're really not developed enough, and then they have problems later on in life. What's your view on that?
Well, I think that it's a very challenging part of the ballet art form because there are certain foot problems that you can have, not in your daily life, but to stand like this, it might be problematic. Our ankle joint, that's a hinge. I know this isn't my ankle, it's my wrist, but it's a hinge, right?
Yeah.
And right under, so it's like this, and this is the leg, the shin bone that comes down onto the foot. And there's a bone where that shin bone comes down onto, and it's called the talus bone. And when you point your toe, that talus bone, because the back of your ankle is getting pinched, right? So when you point your toe, the front is opening. And then when you flex, the back is opening. So the bone has to move. So let's just say you were born with, because they're all irregular shaped bones in your ankle. So what if yours is a little bit bigger in an area where it doesn't let it slide and glide so that you can move your foot like this? You're going to end up pointing your foot like this.
Yeah.
See those kids that go, "Whoop," and
Yeah.
they can't do it.
Yeah.
And so if that's the issue, instead of saying, no, you can't do it, I say, go ahead and try, because eventually they'll burn. And I'm not trying to put them in a failure position,
No.
but they really want to try. So try. And eventually they'll either figure out how to make it happen, or they'll say, this isn't worth it because it's a
It's
lot.
not worth. No, it's not for me. Yes.
Well,
Yes,
you have
absolutely.
the second toe. If it's too long, it's getting jammed up inside. There's so many imperfections that can happen with those small bones of the foot that it's not for everybody, point work. It's
No.
just not.
No, it's not, and I'm for many years did point work, and I have very thin skin, and I used to suffer greatly, but I wanted to do it and I did it. But
Well, I'm almost 6 foot tall. Imagine, well, I'm 5'10", so on point I was 6 foot. I was like ridiculous. Like, really?
well, I needed the extra inches, so
I know we have the opposite problem.
I needed a stilt actually.
But, you said this was the last thing that you mentioned, right?
Yes.
That fortitude, that stick-to-itiveness, that hard work, that, you have a vision, you go after the vision, you keep going after it. And I would have never, if I didn't have the the stick-to-itiveness, what is the
Just
drive, the
try.
drive, right? The drive to do it, I would have never done it
No.
because I was not the perfect candidate for that. And I heard a billion no's before I heard it. The best thing that happened to me is that my teacher, when I was a child, she took us into Beverly Hills to the Lachine studio where I got to be in Los Angeles. About at 13, I was working because I had good training as a kid. But
Right.
I just was, there's luck involved too, right? And then
Absolutely.
once you catch the lucky break, you can't go, well, uh-oh. You have to like go, okay, I got to fight now because I got this opportunity. So,
Yes. Well,
yes, drive.
uh, it is drive, and it's getting that mental strength, giving kids that mental strength. even with vocabulary. This year at the conference, I'm going to be doing a session on making, bringing vocabulary back, or,
Oh,
making
good.
it accessible, because so many people, so many of the new teachers are afraid of vocabulary. They're afraid they will mispronounce the French
Oh,
terms.
yeah.
But I always say to my kids, not only do you get to learn ballet, but you're also learning French.
When I was 5 years old and I had just started dance, I would take all the kids out to the play during recess. I go, I can speak French. They go, no, you can't. I'm like, yes, I can. And so I'd go out there and I go, que plié tendu, échappé, da, da, da. I would just say all my words and they would be like,
I
I
know.
was
I don't know how far you get doing that in Paris, but anyway.
right, exactly.
But that's what I tell them. But I think it's important because it's universal. No matter where you go, if you're in a dance class, they're going to speak French in one capacity or another.
And let me tell you, it doesn't matter if you're in Switzerland, Germany, if you're
Yeah,
in,
exactly.
in
Hong
Japan.
Kong. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
No,
Though it might sound a little different with the accent, but it is
right.
what it is.
You can still understand it. So that's why it's so great, really. It's so
Yeah.
important.
Mhm.
So, Dolly, if you had like a tip for dance teachers,
Oh.
what would a tip be, or some piece of advice that you would give to a dance teacher?
Well, I think it depends on the age of the student that you're teaching, but I tip of how they would actually, well, first of all, you can't give up. And I think teachers kind of get beaten down by the students and by the parents, right? So and pretty soon the teacher just goes, okay,
Yeah,
And I think if you can kind of steal up against that and know that there are people out there, that you're not alone, right? You're not alone in that feeling. This is what's so wonderful about what we're doing right now, that I really believe that we just have to keep fighting that really beautiful fight, and don't compromise those values and disciplines that make our children better. They make us better human beings, and we're struggling with the better human thing
I
now.
know. We certainly
So
are.
we
Yeah.
really need to remember that the discipline is great, has great value, and as a teacher, it's very difficult, and sometimes you just want to go, that you
Yeah.
can't do that, right? You have to be strong and know that there's this, not only, there's Steve, there's Angie, there's all these people, there's people out there that are really trying to support you. And we're there. You can email me anytime you want. So please just stay strong. You are the warriors. Fight the fight.
Yes. And we are a community, and that's something always to remember, I think, because studios can be anywhere in the country or in the world, actually, because we all have the same issues. Doesn't matter what country you live in. you know a dance studio is a dance studio, and a dance program is a dance program, and we butt up against the same problems. But it's knowing that you have a community, absolutely, and using, and that's when we started Dance Teacher Web online, the as a membership site. It was for that reason, because we wanted to share our idea, not just our ideas, everybody's ideas, make it a community where you could go at any time, and just replenish your soul, your spirit, your ideas, get some new, even if it's eight counts, count of eight, just to get going, or a new exercise at the bar, whatever it is. That was why we started it. And we're so thrilled, to have all the community around us, all the people. We have such great friendships. And by the way, Dolly and I, we've been friends with Dolly since, well, 30 plus years, I think. And we started with the Dance Educators of America, Charles Kelly, all of that era of when we became friends and started thinking of ways to do things to help.
We were
And
so cute then.
we were,
We
we
were
still
really
are,
cute.
Dolly. We still are.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and that's one of the main things, I think. And I'm not hopping on board any kind of political train, not. We need to be a community. That means we need to support one another regardless of whatever and the arts are suffering. And if we don't stick together, what's going to happen in the future? What is there going to be? Is it going to be AI, people dancing around in, over just images that are bot images doing ballet? So community, that's what I'm trying to do with UNLV, bring the college, the Clark County School District, and the community college all together. We all are here for the same reason. So as artists.
Well, and that's why also at the conference we all get together. We laugh, we learn, we do it all.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to seeing you at that too.
Yeah.
Well, Dolly, thanks so much. You've been terrific as always.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank
You're
you.
a gem in the dance world.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's
Which
true.
one? Which gem? A ruby? A diamond?
Whatever you want.
Oh, okay. Today I want to be a diamond, but tomorrow I might want to be something.
You are a diamond. You are a diamond who shines to all of your students. And we're very grateful that you came on today. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. And we look forward to seeing you all at the next podcast.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Mwah.
Thanks for listening to Step Up Your Studio. Remember to subscribe, share with fellow dance professionals, and join our community dedicated to studio success. Until next time, keep stepping up.